watch TV after school, so I'd load them up and sit them in front of the TV on Friday.
And now my kids like, can we get on the iPad? No, go do something. Come
Yeah,
on.
get outside, go play. That's what my mama used to tell me.
Yeah, like,
Boy, go play.
same with my parents.
You see those
Stay
street
in the
lights?
back, in the backyard.
I was,
Don't come home until they come.
that's right.
My parents were straight, so we had that street, but we had a backyard, so it was like, go in the backyard, it was like,
street lights
eat
came on,
and
it was
get out.
over with.
Not
He's
once
like
a
the final
year.
thing, so get out the house, I was like, okay.
Yeah,
Lights come on, bye.
Yep, the street lights came on, it was over with.
Yeah, we're military, right, so we get Fort Bragg, swimming pool, in the basement of the hospital. What y'all doing here? I'm looking for my mom.
One time I scrounged enough money together for a video, and we lived like halfway between York and Clover.
Good gosh.
So me and my buddy hopped on our bikes, like all the way into town. Got the video, came all the way back.
The hell was returning it, right?
Yeah.
Morgan video, you got it.
Friday night, you went to the video store,
All the haters were first.
rented something from Blockbuster.
Yeah, that was a date, man. That's a date night.
you could ride your bike safely on the
Yeah,
road. Huh?
that's a date night,
Yeah, you
bro.
did early.
I was laughing though, because I
You
sent out like
If
her.
they came out early.
You showed you on Friday, they came out, yeah,
He never made
She took a screenshot of like the ending.
no.
I had a whole
She was on her
collection,
face
but
and the ski
keeping
mask
it
sitting like in front of us.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, I can understand that.
I still got it.
My
Oh,
video
yeah.
games, so
Oh,
these
man.
PS2 games.
I got rid of all of that.
Oh,
I
my
had
God.
cases of those.
Straight like, yeah, we had video games, we were renting that.
And now DVD players
Straight
don't work
like that.
anyways, like every time, like.
Mine works.
I used to
Still got
walk
a
to the
DVD
day, Hollywood video.
I don't even know why I still
Oh,
got my
yeah.
DVDs.
I got so many of them, it's not even funny.
I got rid, I gave them all to the Goodwill.
Why do I even
I
have?
still got all of them, it's crazy.
After one move, I was like, yeah, we're not.
Yeah, why do I got that?
So you ain't lugging them around.
Nope,
I
we're
still got
not.
tapes, I'm like, what?
Goodwill it is.
Yeah, I think I cherry picked like 3 or 4. Right, I'm not gonna get rid of this.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
rest of them,
Bye.
You goodbye.
But it baffles my mind, like you go up in Walmart and you still see this huge bins of DVDs.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, who's
Who
buying
buying
these
them? Who buying
things?
them things?
Yeah.
Who's buying these things?
Just one random collector, probably, that's it.
Yeah.
It's Kevin.
What y'all talking about? Still playing.
$1.99 Blu-ray.
Die Hard, 99 cents. Okay, go on Netflix.
That full screen DVD.
I remember that time, but like, it was like,
Straight like that, the full screen or widescreen.
They would have them on the floor out for New York. Yeah, what you want before it comes out, and you'll see them recording it like real. Oh yeah, some bad
Talking in the background.
Yeah, I know, right? Getting them for the barbershop. I remember
But
that.
I still
thing,
saw it
straight like-
first.
Yep. Straight in the barbershop. I got them CDs, DVDs. I got that tape. I still remember, I got an X-Men tape in the barbershop.
I did the barbershop tape
Yeah,
twice,
I
and
did. I
then
got an X-Men tape in the barbershop. That was so bad. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was like 11.
You can buy a whole wardrobe.
And I bought it. I came home and bought it. What the hell you want? You know, I laughed. It wasn't worth nothing, honestly.
yeah, they got you at the
They
barber.
got me good.
They go in there, they go to the movies with a camcorder. Shoot the movie off the
I got
screen.
this tape, okay.
I know, my boys were doing it. Go with the little camcorder, shoot the whole movie.
That thing just doing this.
Then it comes. Sell it for $5.
$5, yeah.
It's a car ride. It's during the car ride. The car ride.
Don't bother. You hear it in the background.
And now movies, I mean, at this point, it's like they're in any type of streaming device within 30 days anyway. And I was so upset. I went and paid for a movie. And
Sometimes
I
it's
was
even
like,
30 days, it's like 10
listen,
days.
right? I'm like, no, you don't have this
Nowadays,
device,
it's 10
streaming
days.
device I'm already paying for.
Then it's in Walmart a week later.
Facts.
How you streaming before you don't want one?
Right?
What time 10 o'clock press conference start?
We're on the way.
They are coming. Thank you for your patience.
Kevin asked that question. I'm sorry, that's all.
That was real greedy of you, right?
Is that cool?
Yeah, that's fine. Morning, everyone. How's everybody? Good. I apologize for being a couple minutes late here. I want to respect your time. I'm just dealing with something else there, so but we're here now, so we'll get moving. The first thing I want to open up with today is provide a little bit of information about the UNCC incident yesterday. So we responded a little before noon yesterday to reports of gunfire on UNCC campus in the Mabane Hall, which is one of the educational buildings, classrooms on the campus. The update that we want to share today is how those calls came about, and that is, this was not a swatting situation as you might typically think of it. There was a staff member in the building on campus who heard loud noises that staff member legitimately thought to be gunfire. That staff member worked immediately to preserve life. They implemented their procedures to safeguard the students that were there in the building and on the campus. That process led to text messages going out and other people starting to call 911, which explains the multiple calls for service that we did receive. Our officers responded quickly in partnership with UNCC police. We were able to arrive and identify that there were no gunshots on the campus or around. There were no injuries to any of the students. But what we saw again was the snowball effect of an action leading to a panic and other calls being received. But again, I just want to stress that we're in the business of preserving life. Thankful for the staff member that they have a mindset of doing the same. And oftentimes it takes a will to act in order to safeguard life in these situations that happen just like that. And so again, we commend the efforts there on behalf of that staff member, and we partner with UNCC Police, and we credit our partnership with them. Of course, we understand that this evokes memories of 2019, both for people on that campus, in our community, and even here internally with our officers that were there that day. We understand the concern that a call like that invokes, but we're committed to continue to respond to those types of calls, and we hope that both students and staff alike continue to have the will to act in situations like that where they feel that people's lives are in danger. So with that, I'll go ahead and open it up.
Could you talk specifically about today's chase in Midtown that ended in Midtown that started in Kannapolis, and what's the latest information on that?
Yeah, I really have very limited information. That Kannapolis PD is the agency in charge of that, leading that. My understanding is that it made its way down from Kannapolis here, and it ended here, and that's their investigation, and that they've taken custody of those involved in that.
And to follow up on that, as far as I know it started with a construction theft over there, whatever. Is that something you're seeing here or anything like that, or anything you can?
Construction thefts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, with a lot of construction, there's obviously a construction boom, apartment complexes, residential facilities, commercial here in Charlotte. Those types of sites or facilities can be ripe targets for thieves. Someone looking to take advantage of an opportunity to steal property or product. It has been something that we've seen in the past with appliance thefts and so forth. Yeah.
But no, trend going up, and nothing that you can talk about.
No, ma'am, no.
Or...
I don't have any updates on that. No.
Do you have any clarity on what the noise was at UNCC?
I don't. There's been some speculation, but I don't have anything concrete. I don't think we know 100% what it was that was heard.
So that turned out to be an overzealous staff member, but what about the 3 hoax active shooter calls at Mecklenburg high schools this week?
Yeah, let me just take a step back. Overzealous staff member, I don't know is the best word. I think it's a staff member who took seriously the sound that they heard, legitimately thinking it was gunfire, and then having a will to act to preserve life and protect those on their campus. You asked about
3 high schools.
3 high schools. Those were threats that were made, calls that were received to all 3 of those. It was determined that, again, there was no active shooter, there was no shooting on campus, there was no injuries, and that's being investigated accordingly.
Do you think that it's the same group, same individual? Anything else you can share about that?
To UNCC, the same?
The 3 high schools, it seems kind of a coincidence you get 3.
Right, yeah, so my understanding is that the same type of call was received at all 3 high schools around the same time.
What
Yes.
precautions were taken?
I know that CMS went to modified lockdown, and they might have a little bit more for you on their specific steps.
Can we just switch gears and talk a little bit about the shooting on Crandon Drive? First question here, what is your first reaction when you see the video of people firing literally dozens of shots on Crandon Drive?
My response is that it's jarring. It's shocking to the conscience. And I hope that it is to anybody that watches that video. I know it is to me. I've seen videos like that before. Many people in here may have seen videos like that before, but it's one of those things that never gets old and that you really can never get comfortable with watching. We talk a lot about shooting to occupied dwellings, shooting to occupied property, vehicles, violent crime, crime involving guns. And it's relatively easy to say those things, but people need to know what that looks like. When we say a house was shot into overnight, okay, house was shot into overnight, maybe you picture the house with some bullet holes in it, but there are people pointing guns, pulling triggers, often in the dark overnight hours. It's often multiple shooters, often shooting multiple rounds, and that video demonstrates what that looks like, and it's jarring. It's jarring to watch, absolutely.
Does CMPD have any suspects in this case as of yet? And can you tell us about the CMPD's unit that investigates cases like this, and what strategies do they use to probably find those suspects?
Yeah, we have not made an arrest in the case. It's still an active investigation. We, of course, we've seen the video that's been released even publicly. We encourage anyone else with information to contact us and give us whatever information they have, or if they have information about who these shooters are. We ask you to call Crime Stoppers. In general, our crime gun and suppression team, CGST as we often refer to them as, they do investigate series shooting crimes. Oftentimes they're retaliatory, or different groups shooting back and forth at each other. When we get leads in shooting cases like this, they've been quite successful, and they're very, very good at their jobs. Their investigative techniques range very, very broadly, but they were able to make 212 arrests last year and seize over 244 firearms. Many of the people that they're investigating are repeat targets, repeat offenders, and that's something that we take seriously here in order to try to curb that trend of shootings.
So that's the unit handling this investigation?
I am not aware who's holding this investigation specifically.
But these are cases that they would see?
This is the type of case that they would see, absolutely.
And then on January 31st, you guys had like on the I-77, like there was a car that was shot into. Was that like a road rage? Is there any details or information you can share on that one?
That one I'm not aware of. We might have to follow up with you on that.
I was fairly familiar with that, or I can.
We can circle back afterwards on that one, yeah.
Have you guys learned anything through Operation Trio in January?
So Trio is a continuation of Heartbeat, which started in 2022. We saw that Heartbeat was quite successful. I think 36% decrease in violent crime in that area. Again, we're talking about a very specific area of Uptown for Heartbeat. And so when we say that Trio is a continuation of it, we're keeping the focus on those same areas, but just broadening a little bit to include a few of the parks, including Vermeer Beard and Uptown. So we hope to be able to build on the success of Heartbeat in 2022, 2023 that we've seen, and continue the decreases in crime while expanding the footprint of it throughout more Uptown.
Separate issue, more on the lines of geofence warrants. Why does CMPD use geofence warrants?
So the topic of geofence warrants is not something that I'm going to speak to here, especially in this setting. When it comes to techniques like this, investigative techniques, it falls under sensitive security information and means and methods towards investigations. So I'm just not going to speak to that from this podium.
Okay, so is there no reason you can answer why, does the department have concerns about innocent people getting caught up with geofence? Is that something that you guys are looking into, or is this something of a concern of the police department?
Yeah, so, as a police department, we certainly respect the privacy of everybody in our city. When we utilize different investigative techniques, we're following applicable law, and we have multi-layers of processes to get to that point to ensure that our processes and procedures and applicable laws being followed. I'll leave it at that.
I know I'll get more information on it anyways, but can you just give me is there a concern about road rage incidents happening here, and then what should someone do if they are experiencing or in something like that,
Gun violence. Gun violence is what we're talking about. Yeah, I think.
Road rage.
Yeah, so road rage specifically, whether we're somebody's shooting into a car, whether somebody's shooting into a business, whether somebody's shooting into a house, we look at that as people in our city trying to handle or resolve conflict of various types with a firearm. And I speak about this quite frequently. It's not acceptable to pick up a gun in order to solve a conflict or a problem. If it's a road rage, hey, you cut me off, I'm going to pull out a gun and shoot at you. That's disturbing, and I think everybody's on board with that. Generally speaking, that's disturbing, and that's something that we don't want to see. Many times, when we see shooting into vehicles, road rage, that's it's an isolated incident. If it's truly road rage, like I don't know you, you don't know me, it's just that you cut me off, and so I'm going to shoot at you. Many times with shooting into houses, dwellings, we tend to see that people are known to each other, and I'm coming to your house to target you at your house.
Another thing I've noticed or seen in incident reports were several armed robberies. Is that something that has been happening a lot? I also saw there was one, and this is a store robbery. This was a Dick's Sporting Goods or something. I think that was another one, but it was not like an armed robbery. But talk to me about both if you could.
Sure. Robberies, we were happy to see that violent crime overall was flat last year. Robberies fall within the violent crime umbrella category. And so robberies were down in Charlotte in 2023, which we're quite happy about. Robberies can fall into a couple of different classifications. You have armed robberies, or you have strong armed robberies, or common law robberies, and really the difference there is the use or threatened use of a weapon in those. Again, that's something that we have detectives that investigate those incidents and patrols that happen quite a bit to try to prevent those incidents. They can occur against a person, or they can occur against a business. I know you mentioned Dick's Sporting Goods. I'm not familiar with the specific case in that one, or if there was an arrest. But it does fall in that violent crime category, which we're happy to report. Robbery incidents were down last year.
I understand some folks from CMPD on Wednesday morning had a virtual meeting with the NCARC related to some e-courts discussion. I don't know everything about it, but I was wondering if you could share what was discussed in that meeting and what the topic of conversation was.
Yeah, Ryan, to be honest, I don't know. You might know more than me about that meeting. I don't have specifics of that. I saw your question. I appreciate you sending it. I don't have specific information about that meeting or what specifically was discussed.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we could, generally, it's been a couple months now since the course launched. From CMPD's perspective, how are things going with it?
Yeah. So the eCourts Odyssey launch really involves the courts and of course run by the AAC more than it does CMPD specifically. But we have seen some challenges on our end, and that really manifests itself in terms of delays for our officers when they go to jail to process an arrestee. If the system is backlogged and magistrates are having difficulty with doing their job, it in turn is going to back up everything downstream from that. So those are the challenges that we've seen that I'm aware of here. Sometimes we get some heads up on that. For example, if it's a scheduled outage then we'll have a little bit of heads up, and we could try to mitigate that the best that we can. Sometimes we don't have a heads up if it's something that happens more immediately. So for CMPD, it's really delays and extended manpower that's happening down there at the jail.
Just to make sure I understand. So basically, like as an example, if y'all wanted to take a warrant out on somebody and then go to the magistrate's office, the general backlog and kind of lag in the system now is kind of affecting y'all's work essentially.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yep.
I had 2 questions from Julia Corn. I don't know all the context of it, but she asked it very fast.
Sure.
She said, I reported on CMS crime stats yesterday. Despite CMPD's report of increased juvenile crime last year, CMS reports reflected the opposite, a decrease. How would CMPD explain the difference between school crime versus street crime?
Yeah, so I think there's no doubt what CMPD is seeing in the area of juvenile crime, and we've shared it quite often. Again, end of year. Just a couple things I have right in front of me. Juvenile auto theft arrests up 192% 2023. Juvenile property crime suspects up 86%. Juvenile suspects of ADWs with a gun up 33%. Juvenile victimization when it comes to ADWs up almost 20%. So I think the data speaks for itself as far as what CMPD is seeing. As far as what CMS is seeing in their schools, I can't necessarily speak to. Of course, we have school resource officers, embedded in most of these schools in CMS. I don't know how they. I'm assuming they're calculating their data just based on what happens on campus. It probably is not a surprise to me that that's a lot lower than what happens off of campus.
And then, I think you kind of just touched on this a little bit, but she mentions CMPD previously called juvenile crime a societal issue. I guess this means in partnership with y'all. What has CMS done in its societal role to stunt what used to be increasing crime within schools? And what other parts of society need to become involved in thwarting juvenile crime?
Okay, so I think I understand the question as what has CMS done to when they used to have an increase in their schools, now they have a decrease. I just think CMS might be better for that one. We do work in partnership quite a bit. I mean, when we talk about our communications teams, when we talk about, of course, we have school resource officers and the training that goes into those school resource officers in dealing with students, in dealing with potential threats and such. Of course, we're there on the campus as a uniformed police officer with a marked police car sitting out front as a means of deterrence. And of course, that's been like that for quite some time. But I think CMS just probably would be better for this question.
Sure.
Because of the calls for active shooters, like 3 from CMS and 1 at UNCC, even though they were false, is CMPD seeing an increase in requests from businesses and community organizations for active shooter training? And do you encourage those organizations to do that?
Yeah, I don't know about an increase in requests, but that is something that we do through our crime prevention unit out of our community services division. We do an active shooter training, and absolutely we encourage every business, every school, every organization to put on these trainings for their employees. There's a number of even private organizations that do that. I think the more awareness and the more training that goes on, the better prepared anybody's going to be, whether it's a customer, an employee, or otherwise.
With the recent release of the video from CATS of the bus driver that was shot in the vehicles, has there been any updates on folks looking at additional traffic cameras? Have you been able to identify the type of vehicles that were in that scenario?
In that specific incident, no, we haven't made any arrests in that case. And we don't have any information on suspects or suspect vehicles, so it's still an open case. Of course, the CATS bus in this incident was not targeted specifically. It was an unintended target, is my understanding of this. So, but certainly we ask for information of anybody that has it, because we have not made an arrest.
It's just really concerning, because in that general area, shootings has increased down between Betty Ford and the service road over there, just in the last month or so.
Right.
So that's why I was hoping maybe you had some information on identifying the vehicles.
No, I don't have any other information on that case.
Are you guys looking at traffic cameras in the area, or?
Yeah, so we use a number of different investigative techniques for all of these cases. Of course, anytime there's a violent crime or a shooting, that's something that we dive deeply into, whether it's our crime gun team or division detective or detective housed here out of the law enforcement center. So we take a deep dive and really use every resource that we can, that we have to try to make an identification and make it rest, to hold somebody accountable.
Then I have another question. With the reports coming out about the seized money, the monetary funds, the 16 million, I think it was, is CMPD able to use those funds to help during like our recent weather conditions where the temperatures dropped and there were families, homeless families in need, to maybe look at paying for hotels or something to get people off the streets, or opening the emergency heating shelters by providing some kind of monetary volunteer pay to help with the population, because I'm sure the reports for welfare checks goes up and everything during these times. And
Okay, so when it comes to shelters or things of that nature, that might be a better question for the city across the street
are you guys
over
able
us.
to use some of those funds?
So those funds, speaking broadly, those funds are allocated. And so there are certain things that we can and cannot spend them on. There's law that dictates that. And then there's an oversight process to that also. So I mean, I can't speak to whether we would use it for one thing specifically or not. Is that it? Okay, good deal. Thanks y'all for being here. Appreciate it.
Jesse, could I send you the info? I think there was two, right? You asked